Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use DML triggers. DML stands for Data Manipulation Language in SQL Server. These triggers have to do with insert, update, and delete actions. My name is Wally. I'm a SQL Server DBA with over 25 years of experience in Microsoft SQL Server and other types of RDBMS. You may contact me in one or more ways as shown below. I'm also the founder of Data Grupo PBSoft since 2013. Instructor, writer, and IT consultant since the late 90s with a growing customer base. Now, let's go see the triggers and the process. As you can see on my screen, we're going to be using the db_demo database. You can use your own database if you wish to do so. To test the triggers, we're going to have two tables. One is going to be called Table Trigger Watch, and the other one is going to be called Person. These are the triggers. One is going to be called TRG insert DBO person, which obviously has to do with the insert process. TRG update DBO person has to deal with the update process. And TRG delete DBO person has to do with the delete process too. Now, the way this works is that we're going to have some data on the person table. And every time we execute an action, either insert, update, or delete, the action is going to be recorded on the table trigger watch. Some additional data is going to be recorded for auditing purposes. Now, since this is a demo, I'm going to do some cleanup on this database. I'm going to delete these objects in case they exist, so we can start clean. Now, let's see how the tables are composed. Okay, as you can see on my screen, the first table we're going to look at is the person table. This table is basically going to hold three columns. One column is going to be person ID, which is basically an identity column, person name, and date of birth. The second table is going to be called trigger watch. Now, this is a table that's going to hold all the actions performed by the triggers on the person table. And we can also adapt it to more tables. Some of the columns we have are action ID, which is an identity column. This is for internal purposes. We're going to have a record ID, which is going to hold the main record number from the table that we're going to be affecting. The table schema, table name, trigger name, host name, app name, DB, which is the database name that we're affecting, action taken, action time, username, process ID, and server name. Let's create the tables now. Okay, now it's time to take a look at the triggers. As you can see on my screen, this is the first trigger we're going to look at. It's called TRG insert DBO person. Now, triggers are referenced to specific tables. In this case, we're going to reference that to the person table, as you can see right here. The basic command is a create or alter trigger, followed by the schema that we're going to use on the trigger, and the name of the trigger. And then we say on, and we specify the name of the table. After that, we say the action. In this case, it's going to be an after insert. So this is going to capture information after we insert data on the table. For this exercise, we had to declare some variables. The main variable we're going to declare is going to be called record ID, which is going to hold the main ID column from the source table we're going to be affecting. We're going to be also recording the name of the source table, and along with that, we're going to use that specific information to get the schema name, table name, the name of the executing trigger. In this case, it's going to be TRG insert DBO person, the host name, and the app name. Now, the main record ID, we're going to retrieve it from a table that's created when we execute triggers. The table is called inserted in this case. And we're going to get the person ID column from the person table. And we're going to add it to the record ID variable. There will be an insert process when we execute the action into the table trigger watch. Now, what are we going to insert? We're going to insert to these columns: record ID, table schema, table name, trigger name, host name, app name, DB, action taken, action time, username, SPID, and server name. We're going to use the variables we declare on the top, alongside with some default values that we can retrieve from SQL Server itself. Let's create our first trigger. Now, let's see the next trigger. The next trigger we're going to see is the update trigger. This trigger works whenever we update a value from the table. It's basically the same process, but we give it a specific name so we know that it's an update trigger, and we specify the action. In this case, it's an after update trigger. We use the same amount of variables. We also capture the person ID from the person table, and we attach it to the record ID variable. We proceed to do an insert, and we complete the process. It may sound very easy right now, but we're going to see an example just to see how it works. Okay? Let's create it, and it has been created. Let's see the next and last trigger. The last trigger we're going to see is the delete trigger. This is the trigger that executes whenever we delete a record from the person table. Basically the same structure. Only difference is that we specify an after delete, which is the action. We declare the same amount of variables. We call for the person ID column that we're affecting, and we perform an insert process. Let's create the trigger. Okay, now we have 3 triggers associated with the person table. It's time to see how they work. Okay, before we see how they work, I'm gonna add some queries on this project. All of the scripts that you see on the screen will be available for you to download from the video notes. So this select statement here will list all the triggers that I have on this database. Let's execute it. And as you can see right here on my screen, there's only 3 triggers for a person table. You can see information about those triggers, the names, creation date, modified date, and the type of trigger. Now, let's see the contents of the person table and the trigger watch table. They should be empty, meaning that there is no information right now. So we need to insert some information on the person table so we can start working with the triggers. Let's do that now. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to insert one value into the person table. We're going to insert Stephen as the person name and 1982-0602 as the date of birth of the person. Let's see what happens. And there it is, one row affected. It means we have one record on the person table. Let's review that. And there it is. Now, since we did an insert on this person table, something happened on the trigger watch. Let's see what happened on the trigger watch table. And there it is. If we run both of them together, so we can have a better view, we have added one record with the record ID 1 to the schema DBO, table name person, using this trigger, DRG insert DBO person. This is the host name where that was executed, and this is the app name. Now the app name is where we capture what application executed the insert. In this case, we can use different applications to do inserts. In this case, we're using Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. We're using specifically a query in Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. But if we were using an application like a C# application or a Java application, it will capture that information right here for us. We can see the database that was used. In this case, we know it's db_demo. The action taken, action time, the username that's connected to the database, in this case, the process ID, and the server name hosting the database. Now, let's see another example. On the next example, I'm going to do an update to the person table. The update is going to be for the date of birth. As you can see, we have 1982-0602, and let's just figure out that this is a mistake and the date of birth is another one. So we need to do an update. We're going to change that to 1985 December 29. How are we going to specify the person ID is going to be 1. Let's run the update. And we have one row affected, as you can see right here. Now, if we run the two tables, the person and the table trigger watch table, this is what we get. We have modified the date of birth, but we also added another record to the table trigger watch. Now, the second row says we ran the trg update DBO person trigger, and it performed an update action. We have the time and the date when it was executed, user, app name, host name, everything. Now, let's perform a delete statement. Okay, we're going to delete Stephen from the person table. And that action is going to be recorded on the table trigger watch. I'm going to perform the deletion right here. And I'm going to specify this is going to be person ID 1. Let's see what happens. One row was affected. And let's see the tables. The person table, it's empty right now. But if we look at the table trigger watch, we have 3 records, which affected the person table. These were the triggers that ran, and these were the actions. First action we did was insert, update, and the last one was delete. This is good for auditing purposes because we can at least get the record ID, or it could be all the columns too from the table that was affected. We could also record the person name, or the date of birth, or the balance, or any other value that we want to get on the table trigger watch, just for auditing purposes. If you have any questions regarding these triggers, how they could work for you in different ways, please leave me a comment or send me an email, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. If you find this video useful for you, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you for watching.